So, everybody, welcome to PBJ TV. I am here with Carlos and Shannon from Dustbane. Welcome to PBJ TV.
Well, thanks, Caitlin. We're really excited to join you today to talk about such a timely topic as we're just coming out of spring and people have finished their spring cleaning. They may be thinking about, well, what comes next as I prepare for the summer? And boy, oh boy, with 2020 behind us now, we're starting to see so many products just flooding the marketplace because people had them in their closets and now they're bringing them out. So hopefully today we can give some people some insights on how to properly dilute their products, stop using the Tim Hortons method, it doesn't work, and really make sure that we're giving your customers exactly what they need to get the optimal performance.
Exactly. Now, our Desks and Dusters listeners will know Shannon, and our PBJ TV will know Shannon as well from past videos. Carlos, why don't you introduce yourself? You are the amazing rep that we get to deal with.
Yeah, thanks, Caitlin. Thanks for having me on. This is actually, it's fun. It's first experience here. So I am the regional sales manager for Southern Ontario and the whole GTA area. So I've been working with Dustbane for about just over 2 years now. And just like you mentioned, I work with you and your team and help you guys out with your customers for any kind of anything that you may need. Either come with dilution systems, just like Shannon's going to talk about, recommendations. So if you have any questions, I'm always here to help out, and I do my best to help you guys out.
And you both do such an amazing job. Now, Shannon, what is the importance of diluting products right off the bat? That's what we're going to talk about today. Why should customers worry about that? I mean, if it's stronger, it's going to work better, right?
Wow, there's so many different ways in which I can answer that question, Caitlin. Let's start off with the safety aspect first, because that is probably the most critical piece of it. And then we'll get into why less is actually more, because that's really important as well. So when you think about utilizing chemicals from a safety perspective, more often than not, we know the chemicals that we see on the retail shelves of the store, and it doesn't give us a lot of instructions. There's no SDS, there's no dilution rates to worry about or concern ourselves with. We just know what we're buying and we know how to use it. And a lot of that comes from marketing or commercials in which we've seen, or just, habit. So when we start to think about getting into commercial chemicals and start talking about dilution rates, the one thing I often hear, if I'm looking at a product like Vanguard, we'll get phone calls. Well, how do I dilute this? Or what does 1 to 80 mean? That means I put 80 parts of chemical to 1 part water, right? Absolutely not. So the 1, it actually stands for the amount of chemical, and the 80 stands for the amount of water. So we always have misperceptions on that. Now, when it's highly concentrated, products perform very differently. And depending on the type of the product that you're using, the pH could be very different. So you could have something that could be a little more harmful on surfaces if you were overusing the product, or might not be as safe for the environment for the worker. So we want to make sure that you've got the right dilution rate and the right PPE and really putting together the right system.
Now, Carlos, out in the workplace, when you're dealing with different customers and you're coming to help us with our customers, I mean, how often do you come across these people or different customers that are like, no, we just eyeball it, or they're using something from the grocery store that's meant to be used in the home for proper quantities and different things like that, and now they're just kind of throwing their money away doing that? So how often are you seeing this?
Surprisingly, quite a bit. You know what? I'm gonna go back to when I used to clean with my dad. Not gonna lie, I think he's not listening right now, but we used to eyeball it back then as well. I know that times have changed. Less is more now, but we do run into it quite a bit. But we've helped out lots of customers as well as with PBJ2, where they've seen the benefit of the dilution systems that we're going to be talking about. But it's still in the workforce, it's still out there, and surprisingly, it's there quite a bit. Run into it quite a bit.
Exactly. And now Shannon's got all these awesome systems beside here that are going to help with that as well. So Shannon, what's beside you there? I see a lot of things I know that I really love to talk about. So why don't you kind of explain the next step of dilution?
Well, let's talk about that. That's a great opening way to get into your dilution system. So often we will see those customers that have in the past been used to using a ready-to-use product, so they don't know the difference between a ready-to-use, which is often referred to as RTU, versus a concentrated product, and what's the difference, and how do I actually make sure that I'm getting exactly what I need. So you're going to find with Despain in particular, we are very transparent with our dilution rates. Nothing is worse than when you receive a product, you don't have any training on it, and you have no idea how to use this, and then it doesn't give you all the dilution instructions. Or it's missing part of the label and you might be missing that information. Now you don't know which dilution rate applies to which product. So I can give you a great example. If you were to look at the side of triple action, it's going to tell you it's a disinfectant at 1 to 20. Okay, great. But it's also a great degreaser at 1 to 80. Well, there's a very big difference. So if you didn't measure this correctly, you could be using it as a degreaser and really hoping for the optimal results from disinfection, and you just won't get there because you don't have enough chemical. So it's really important that you understand that. And with Despain, you'll see that we post on our website with every single product, the dilution rates that you would use for the product, and then what application that's best suited for at that dilution rate. So we often see in the workplace, some people will use a measuring cup, some people will use an eyedropper. Well, that's really unsafe because now you've got exposure to chemicals. So there are some easy and cost-effective ways to get dilution. And what you're going to find is the amount of money that you save with proper dilution is incredible. When we do a site survey, we see anywhere from 40 to 80% cost savings just by implementing a system. So if I'm able to save you $50,000 this year on your chemical usage, would you be interested in investing $600 to get there?
Oh, absolutely.
Probably, right? Probably. So not every system is $600. So if you wanted a cost-effective and easy solution, here's a great option for you. So you can start off with the standard pump. Now, not all pumps are created equal, so it's really important to know what pump you're using. So the Despain pump's actually a convertible pump. And what I mean by convertible, it's not like my old Cavalier convertible. It is a convertible pump. So moving your adjustment, you can either have 15 mils of product or 30 mils of product. And why that's important is it actually gives you much better accuracy on the amount of dilution or amount of chemical that's being blended with your water. So something else that actually trips people up is often when they go to fill their spray bottle, they'll put their chemical in first and then their water. Big mistake. And the reason that's a big mistake is all of a sudden the surfactant will start to foam and you lose half your chemical. Then you've gone to the effort of getting proper dilution and you don't end up at the end. So
learn something new every day.
It's crazy. It's crazy. Water first, I'm telling you. You learn the hard way when you've got suds all over your shoes and you're saying, well, that was embarrassing. Not a great demo. Not a great demo. So how do you determine how many pumps if you understand that your dilution rate is 1 to 80? Well, nowhere in the instructions does it tell you that. So you really need to know some math. Well, math is not my strong suit, so I'm going to go to my cheat sheet here. So we have a dilution chart, which is actually the most popular Googled item of Despain is actually our dilution chart. And I think it's probably because we're the only ones in the industry that have actually put one together that makes it simple for the end user. So if I was thinking about 1 to 80 and I needed to put in a certain amount of millimeters of product or milliliters of product into a spray bottle, I know only off the top of my head that it's 12.5 milliliters. So if I was using an eyedropper system, then that's what I would use. If I was using the pump, I'd go to my handy chart here and it would tell me if it's 15 pumps that I'm using 4 pumps. And if I'm on the 30 pump, I use 2 pumps. How easy is that? We've made it very, very simple for something that might be an $8 or $10 item to be able to get you those cost savings that you're looking for. But more importantly than the cost savings, it's the accuracy of the product that is much safer for use. So this is a simple tool and a very easy way to do that. And I'm going to kind of go in line of price point to make that easy. So then we've got another option, and this is really popular in the industrial market. So this is our Eco Easy. So the Eco Easy is color coded by dilution rate. and you have a quick connect hose. You just connect that to your garden hose or your Fairview hose or your Gorilla hose, whichever type of hose that you've got for water source. You press your top button, and that's going to allow you to fill your spray bottles in your bucket right from here. So it's going to pull the right amount of chemical out and add the right amount of water. And that's a really cost-effective system as well, and very portable. So we, again, in industrial settings, we see that a lot, or on service trucks where they need to dilute the chemical and they don't have the ability to bring a whole bunch of ready-to-use product with them. This is a great alternative solution.
That is amazing. Now, I also think that's an awesome alternative for anyone who's really just using a handful of chemicals. Maybe they've only got one or two that they really need. So, Carlos, what kind of end users are you seeing going after the Eco Easy Flex?
I definitely would be lots of the end users that, let's say, if you don't have too much room in your chemical closet in your area, that would actually help out quite a bit. Also, you know what? That line is actually, it's really nice because you don't have to, it's just the one Eco Easy that goes into the chemical or into the jug. You leave it in there, you plug in your hose, just like Shannon was saying, and you're good to go. So it's, yeah.
Very nice. One of the larger universities, Toronto, that has a LEED facility, their challenge is when the new build went up, often when they put a new build, they forget about the supply closet, or it's too expensive in downtown Toronto to have that space as what they deem as wasted space. So they don't have the room to put in a complete system like this. When you think of something like the EnviroFlex, it looks like it takes up very little room, but when you add the rack, that actually takes up a lot of square footage. So this university was using our OxyQ product because they wanted a product that was a disinfectant, a hard surface cleaner, a light duty degreaser, could be a carpet spotter, that really was their all-in-one product. And they were able to add the Eco Easy, put that right on their custodial carts, and then use their water source. So they just had a regular 6-foot hose, but they cut it into a 3-foot hose, and then they could just fill that up from their washroom sinks to be able to fill up their spray bottles from floor to floor, saving them a ton of time, because that's the other piece of it. When you start to think of time savings, having the right products in the right place. It's lean methodology, but it works. You want to make sure that you're not having to do all those extra steps, because time is money. So exactly. All that extra steps and work can cost a company a boatload of money. And imagine when you get to that supply closet and it took you 10 minutes to get there and 10 minutes to go back, and you come back and you've got the wrong product. It's a terrible, terrible way to go. So it's a great solution for them. I think the next best option, we've just launched this and I really love it. So this is called our Right Flex. And the Right Flex is a kit. So you buy 2 different pieces. So you can buy your hose, and your hose comes with your strainer, your weight, your cap, the Tygon tubing, and 7 of our most popular tips for various different products. And so that's one piece. And then the second piece, you can get this quick connect and the top, which is your handle for your Right Flex. And the beautiful part about this system is you see nothing's attached to the wall. So there's no drilling into cement walls, especially in those buildings where you go in and you go to drill that hole and you have no idea what's behind that wall. You hit a gas line, a water source, or electrical, and you've got a massive problem on your hands. And that could be very dangerous. So this is a great alternative solution that can work for your company, especially if they've got one product or they have multiple products. So if you think about our EnviroFlex, while it's a great solution, it's going to give you complete accuracy, you are limited to 4 products, whereas you could have 100 products on this if you wanted to. And it's, you know, if I think about a 4 system on the EnviroFlex versus the Eco Easy, this is probably about $600 for setup, and this here is probably less than $200. So great option for your customers, giving you complete accuracy on your dilution rates, which is really, really critical. It also has a nice locking device. So if you did want to just fill up your bucket and do something else while it's filling up, you can clip your bucket onto the side, lock it in place, and then just let that go. So great option there as well.
Now, the right flex we talked about, we had a nice PBJ call with Carlos the other day with our team, and we were talking about the right flex. So I know how awesome this is. You guys have got some great multimedia on it that we're going to share with our end users too. But like, so you said you can have as many options as you want. You just switch the little piece inside the hose and they're all coated.
Exactly. So you just remove your handle, which takes one twist, and then you can take that handle with the hose and apply it across any of your products. So giving you so much more flexibility than when you're locked into a wall mount system. Mm-hmm. Now, don't get me wrong, the wall mount system's fantastic, and it absolutely has its application.
It does, because we have that over at 540 in our warehouse. And our high school kids use it when they're cleaning mats. They use it for cleaning vehicles and different things like that. And we just did a video with them that's going to be coming up too, of them explaining why they love it so much and how it's so efficient. But this is really a time saver, a money saver. There's environmental impacts behind all this as well.
Well, absolutely. So when you think of the environment, one thing that people often forget about is the amount of packaging that's going into a landfill. So it's not just the jugs themselves that you're thinking of, it's the cardboard, it's everything that goes along with that. It's the transportation costs to get that to your facility when you're using something like our ready to use. Again, a ready to use product like our Vanguard RTU absolutely has its applications. But for those customers that are more concerned with, I have reduced shelf space, I don't want the carrying costs, I need something that's going to be effective for my team, and I really need a good solid waste strategy and waste reduction strategy, moving into a concentrated chemical program is a fantastic way to get there. But without proper dilution, you're just going to waste a lot of chemical and you're going to be ordering far more of it. So it just doesn't make sense not to invest in the right system. So with the EnviroFlex, the beautiful part about this is it's well put together. It's a very strong construction made by the same manufacturer that makes our right flex for us. So quality tips that you know you've got 100% accuracy with. You've got a very easy dial system. So it's what we refer to as a 3+1, which means you can do 3 spray bottles and 1 bucket fill. So great option for you to allow for 4 different products. Or if you were using our OxyQ, as I mentioned earlier, OxyQ being an all-in-one product, this ships with a T in it that the T bracket allows you to have all 4 set up as OxyQ. So pulling from one jug, giving you 4 different dilutions. So really nice option for you there. Using that T bracket. So what we typically will do is if we were going in and doing a site survey and going through a lean program or a 5S program, we'd want to make sure that we've clearly identified and marked your dispenser. You should always know what product is on which button. That's critical. So many times we go into a supply closet and it's not marked. You don't know what you're using. So we want to make sure that it's clearly identified as to which product is there. The other piece that's so important is that you have an accurate wall chart. So we create wall charts, we customize them depending on the customer, but we do have a standard wall chart that ships with the product, with the most common products, and a second one for OxyQ as well, which shows you in both French and English, the product, the application, and the dilution rate, so that you know what your dilution rate needs to be. And then on the dilution chart, we also have the tip colors, because that's really important. So you saw the little white tip in our right flex. So let me just pull one that's got a tip on it for you. So this one here has a blue tip. Well, it's really important to know that you've got the right tip for the right application. So that chart identifies all of that for you, but you won't see that in your EnviroFlex. So the EnviroFlex, again, we have the labels on the unit, we have the labels on the tube. It's surprising how many times people forget to actually mark which tube belongs to which sprayer. And what you often have happen is they put the wrong product on the system, and then your dilution rate is wrong. Yeah. So, you know, it might not be a big deal, at least it's diluted. However, where it becomes a big deal is if you were to look at something like our Excelsior, which I don't have on here right now, Excelsior for your mop and bucket would be diluted at 1 to 256. So that is very lean. If I was to have it on the wrong one and it was 1 to 40, I would start to see that there's buildup and residue and streaking happening on the floor, and the customer would be very dissatisfied with the results that they've received. So you want to make sure that everything is clearly identified and works to the right specifications. There are going to be times where we hear, this isn't drawing any chemical. I had a great example at the airport where I got a call and they said, my dispenser isn't working. It's not drawing any chemical. Okay, well, tell me more about that. Well, I press the button and nothing's coming out. So you get in the car, you go to the airport, you work with them, you check it out, and there's a couple of things that have happened. Remember I mentioned that there was a weight and a strainer on the bottom? Well, that's the same one that goes in the EnviroFlex. So what happens is if someone loses the weight or it falls off, now your straw doesn't go through to the bottom. It'll float in the chemical and it might not draw chemical if that is near empty. So something you always want to be cognizant of is, do you have your weight on there to make sure that the straw goes right down to the bottom? So that's always a great troubleshooting tip as well. And then the other thing that sometimes will happen is water pressure matters. And that's again where the Right Flex or the Echo Easy can be just a saver for you, is if sometimes you might have an issue with water pressure. And now that changes how the draw and suction is on the dispenser. So you want to make sure that you've got that water pressure in place. Otherwise, you might want to move to a different water source.
Perfect. Like, that's so cool. And like, it's so weird. Like, Carlos, me too. I used to be a cleaner as well. I cleaned new home constructions, houses and model homes and residential homes for over 3 years. And I'll be honest, we eyeballed it too. Most people cleaning homes are eyeballing it. I never knew of dilution ratios until I started with PBJ. And I was like, maybe I should call my old boss and be like, hey, I know how you can save a lot of money. I mean like a lot. So these are awesome for in the workplace in different areas. Now, what if people aren't using 4-liter jugs? What if they're using pails?
Well, so you know what? It can be very interesting depending on the brand of product. So we keep ours consistent, that our modular flex series, so those are 2-liter series. You'll see some of our products are 4-liter and some of those are 5-liter. The cap size is all the same, so that's going to work out just fine. Now, when you get into a pail, well, you don't have a cap system on there. So you can use this same system. It's going to draw down to the bottom of the pail, but you're going to have an opening at the top because your cap's not going to fit perfectly on there, because you do have a spout on our pails in particular. There is a little spout that comes out the top. So you will want to make sure that you've got your weight on there, because that's going to be really important. But we do see a lot of folks that use our AccuMax, which is almost identical to the EnviroFlex, but it's a single-use product where they're going to use that for pails or for drums.
Perfect. And Carlos, what other places are you seeing starting to get interest in either dilution or dilution centers in the workplace?
Well, especially right now, since COVID has it hit last year, and emphasis has been brought up on sanitizing, disinfection. Everybody's going back to cleaning as well, right? Cleaning is a big part of it, and lots of hospitalities are really going into it. Restaurants, and once everything opens up, contract cleaners, malls, schools. The biggest thing is actually having that proper dilution system, because at the end of the day, if now, like Shannon had mentioned, if you're putting too much, either the floor is going to get too sticky, or it's going to be very slick. Mm-hmm. And I know, just like I was mentioning to yourself and the team, then we really got to be careful with those with health and safety issues, right? If the floor is too slick, then if somebody falls, then you got to really be cautious about that.
Exactly. We talk about slips, trips, and falls all the time at PBJ. Whether you have
absolutely
in your front entrance, make sure your customers are okay. Make sure your floor care is up to date. Make sure that you don't have electrical cords and all this stuff flying around. So we talk health and safety all the time. We talk environmental impacts. We talk about the time saving, the money saving. Shannon and Carlos, you guys have both mentioned site surveys, which is something that we can do with you guys through PBJ. So what kind of things would we be looking for to talk about dilution in the workplace?
So if we were doing a site survey, we're going to identify a number of different areas of opportunity for time savings. So labor and productivity savings, you're going to find those hard cost savings, and then those health and safety and environmental reasons why you might want to make a change. So something that we identified, we had one customer that we did a site survey with, and they're a very large customer. They were using a ready-to-use glass cleaner, and they were spending about $120,000 a year on that. Well, moving them over to a concentrated product saved them around $50,000 a year. But where the biggest impact was coming from was actually the amount of plastic bottles that were reduced going into the landfill. And then again, those cardboard boxes. So often we'll put that in the calculation on the environmental side as the impact of that, because you often don't think about that. When you're thinking about total cost of ownership, it takes a different context than I'm just buying a product. I'm buying, this triple action ready to use product for $6.99 and I'm quite happy with that. Okay, but if you used thousands of these a year, the amount that you're spending in pickup and disposal can start to add up. So if your company has a sustainability policy or an environmental practice that they want to put in place, we want to ensure that we're maximizing those opportunities, and we're going to start to identify those when we do our site survey. The other thing that we see that comes up quite often is when we go into a facility and we look in those yellow flammable cabinets. Oh, there is a lot of chemical in there, and 90% of the time it's all aerosol products. And the reason they're in a flammable cabinet is because they're flammable, right? Or potentially explosive. But when you think about the hazards that go along with that, you've got a lot of costs, you've got a lot of inventory on hand, you've got potential risk, but obviously you're managing your risk by putting it in a flammable cabinet. But then what we see quite often is the tip of the sprayer is no longer working or has fallen off, and 50% of that can ends up in a recycle bin. Well, it can't be recycled. It's got to be picked up as hazardous waste. So when you start adding up all those costs of aerosols, is there potentially an opportunity to move them over to a safer product that's going to be equally as effective, but that doesn't require being put in a flammable cabinet and is going to work amazingly well on a dilution center? Those are the types of conversations where we start to address hidden costs that most people don't think about. I think the most common thing we see, Carlos, you can answer this better because you're out in the field a little bit more often, is the spray bottle with no label. So you'll see that our triple action has a proper workplace label on it. You don't see it blank. I actually saw this on a site survey earlier this week. I went to a very large facility, and sure enough, when I picked up the bottle, I said, "Can you tell me what's in this?" And they said, "Nope." And I said, "Well, then why does it belong in here? Your employees don't know what it is. You don't know what it is. So how do we dispose of it? Because now we don't even know what the product is for safe disposal." Exactly. So you often see that with a piece of tape and a Sharpie with some random name on it. But how can you be sure that you've got the right product that's just not effective in the workplace, nor is it legal?
Exactly. So reminder, ladies and gentlemen, health and safety, they're out in full force. They're not just looking for your COVID protocols. Yeah, you might be up to date and you might be kicking butt and you have all the PPE in place that you need. And you got the hand sanitizers and your employees are washing your hands. But when's the last time you checked and updated your Jansan closet and your chemicals? They're going to ding you on that too. You've got to be prepared across the board. And that's where our teams working together come into place. So we can offer those site surveys, and Carlos is going to come out and help us, and we will walk through your facility. So if we were to go into a building to do a site survey together, Carlos, what should our customer expect that we are looking for and that we would ask about?
Well, mainly what we're going to be asking about is their current protocols. What do they have in place? What kind of cleaning processes they currently have? Also, we're going to take a look at what kind of chemicals they're currently using. We're also going to make sure that, it is the proper chemicals that they are using for the proper cleaning processes that they do want to use, and also SKU reduction. Maybe we're able to help them out with some of that SKU reduction and go back to the environmental aspect of it, take down on the single-use plastics and help the environment. So there's quite a bit of questions that we are going to be asking, and just mainly learn about their business. Find out more about their business and where they're looking to move forward to, and how we're able to help them achieve that.
Exactly.
And just to add to that, Carlos, I think it's also really getting into various different departments that you wouldn't normally have an opportunity to get in front of and have a conversation about their goals, their desires, and their outcomes, because too often you have one department that has a very different vision and outcome or desired outcome from another department, like operations and finance may not be aligned, and putting together a program for them. We need to meet the needs of both of them. Some regulatory changes that came into place with GHS had a major change with WMIS 2015, which was really implemented in the field in 2018. And very often we'll go into a supply closet and we'll see that the products are either expired or they have the wrong WMIS labels on them. So they're no longer allowed to be in the workplace and needed to be removed by 2018. So we want to make sure that we're helping our customers meet those risks and identifying those hazards before someone else helps them identify them.
Exactly. And that's kind of our motto this year at PBJ. Like we're not here to sell you guys products. We're here to sell you solutions, and we're here to be a helping hand. And we can't do that without the amazing support of people like Carlos and Shannon at Dustbane. So Shannon and Carlos, I can't thank you enough. You turned me into a dilution nerd. I'm on your website a lot, and I just like sit there and stare at the dilution centers, and I'm like, you're just so cute, and you would be so handy in this facility. And oh, I know exactly where I would put you. And oh yeah, I'm a nerd. I'm nerding out about dilution centers. This is so cool, and like, it blows my mind just how cool these machines are, how neat they are, and how advanced they are as well. And like, yeah, Dustbane, you guys are just killing the game. So thank you so much for joining me here on PBJ TV. Is there anything you guys would like to say? Anything you would like to add before we get going here?
So Caitlin, just one last thing. I'm glad you brought up our website and that you're loving it and spending some time on there. So please, if your guests want to spend some time on there, there's some great articles on proper dilution that may be very beneficial to them. Please take advantage of the dilution chart. Like we said, we've made it very simple for you to be able to calculate those dilution rates. Don't calculate them yourself when you've got a cheater. The other thing that we didn't talk about was the modular flex, and we can save that for another day, but this is also a really great closed loop system where you can have 8 different dilution rates that might meet the needs of the customers. We see that in large facilities like post-secondary education, or your K-12 might use something along these same lines, or some industrial applications where this is going to be a right fit for them as well.
Shannon, I love it. We're already planning our next chat together.
There you go.
So you guys stay tuned, because we'll be back with more PBJ TV with Shannon and Carlos, because we've got another system to talk about in the future. I love it.
Awesome.
Shannon and Carlos, thank you so much. Enjoy your weekend. Thank you for teaching me more about dilution, how to properly dilute, where to find information, and how to bring this service and support to our customers here in Midwestern Ontario. I can't wait to get you guys back on the podcast. Can't wait to get you guys back in our facility. I can't wait to see you in person, Carlos.
Absolutely.
And Shannon, I can't wait to meet you in person one day.
Right? We need to do that. We'll go and give meaning to your cleaning event soon.
Earth Day 2022. Let's fingers crossed on that one.
I'm right with you, Caitlin. We'll be there together.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much for doing this today.
Have a great weekend.
Thank you, Caitlin.
Bye.